Hey, everybody, welcome into the Lettermen Lounge. Happy 4th of July, now 5th of July, America's birthday, a wonderful weekend, a national holiday, and it's always a holiday at Roosters for Lettermen Live. Nicole Cox back with us this week, Jeremy Birmingham, Bobby Carpenter. Pretty busy for the first week of July. Some recruiting news that may have moved the needle a little bit. We'll get into that. It's Linebackers week. I guess we can't just wait. Birm, Sunday, 4 o'clock. A seismic change in college football.
Very exciting.
Well, I don't know that I'd call it a seismic change, but obviously for the Buckeyes, it's a big win. It's 2 years' worth of work to land JT Tuimoloau, the country's #1 ranked player out of Seattle, Washington, another defensive end. So that adds him to Jack Sawyer in the class of 2021. And you're talking 2 of the top 4 ranked players in the country, both at the same position. 5 top 10 players in the class of 2021 for Ohio State, which has never been done before. It's just a testament to what they're building, and it was really always about Larry Johnson for JTT and Ryan Day and the coaching staff at Ohio State from top to bottom. It's not just a Larry Johnson thing. It's Brian Hartline being involved from his time when he was out with recruiting G. Scott. It's Tony Alford. It's Al Washington. It's a collective effort here, and it even goes to Ryan Day's family. I mean, the way that Nina and the kids connected with JTT's family was very important in this process. And for Ohio State, it was 2 years of just waiting. Get on campus. And for a lot of people out there, like, oh, how does this kid need to wait so long? Why is he making it about him? Like, of course it's about him. It's the biggest decision of his life. And fortunately for Ohio State fans, he'll be, suiting up with the Buckeyes.
So let me ask you this, Berm. What time did the decision – I didn't watch it live. I know it was supposed to be 4, but I thought it was delayed a little bit. I was at a 4th of July party. Everybody's locked in and waiting, and they're like, where's it? I'm like, it'll come up, believe me, when it happens.
Yeah.
If you follow anything Ohio State or college football related on social media, it will be a firestorm. And then I end up seeing one of my friends end up letting me know. But what time did it actually come down? Was there a nice little
one of the people
delay?
I talked to at Ohio State told me about 1:30 at that point that they were still in the belief it was a 50-50 proposition between Ohio State and Oregon. After it was done, I was told that it was about an hour before the decision was made.
That
they found out.
Okay, so Ohio State found out an hour before. Do you think he had made the decision prior to that, or is this something that was just going down to the line and I'll figure it out on the 4th of July?
I think he probably did. I mean, as I talked about on the radio with you this morning, Bob, like there was a lot of consternation around Buckeyes fans because after he made the official visit to Oregon, he canceled the trip to Bama, which we talked about here last week. But I really believe that if he had not been scheduled to go directly from Ohio State to Oregon, which was the way that his travel plans set up, I think he would have canceled the Oregon visit. I think that after
He just needed to get home.
he had, right. I mean, that's the thing. He literally left the Columbus airport and flew straight to Oregon. He had a layover in Denver, but you're not going to cancel a trip once you get to Denver. So it's not a situation where he had time to go home and sit down and decompress and go, hey, I don't need to make this trip. Oregon was the team for the last few months that had been pushing and making it more interesting. So I think it was just a matter of doing the due diligence at that point to realize that I got everything I thought I was going to get at Ohio State. I got everything that I thought they were about, and to have that validated on the visit, I don't think the Oregon visit was needed. I think it was just a matter of saying, let's just make sure. But if he had time to go home, I don't think he would have made that.
So do they still sign letters of intent now in the NIL world? Like, how does that work? I mean,
they do.
It's so late. I mean, does he just show up and play? I mean,
Well, that's the thing, Bob. Like, we've talked about this, dating back 20 years. You don't have to sign it.
If you're 18, you don't have to sign a national letter of intent.
Really?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to. Anybody that shows up, like,
They
they're
just
really
give you a scholarship.
They're really to lock you in place so
Yeah.
that you know. But for the kid, there's never been any advantage to doing it because you were giving up your rights. Now, it doesn't matter now with the age of free transfers and all this stuff. But
Yeah.
there was never a time where, like, well, we're just not going to let you play for this football team if you happen to enroll at Ohio State and be on campus and be a football player. They always had that opportunity, but it was the schools, again, the NCAA, we've talked about them before, like collectively agreeing that this is what we're going to do. We're going to enforce these contracts that are really unenforceable in any other walk of life, which the Supreme Court's striking all this stuff down.
Kids do sign a financial obligation, but that only binds the school at this point. So JTT, what he could have done conceivably, and I'm surprised
Signed on with everyone.
he actually didn't do that, which is what I was told over the last couple of days. Like, that was the plan initially, but then it never happened. So he was initially going to sign that financial aid and agreement with every school. So whether it's Oregon or USC or Washington, Ohio State, Alabama, they would have been bound to him no matter what he chose. But he didn't end up doing that, so it only signed one with Ohio State. So that's where things are. He's not going to sign in the letter of intent, from what I understand, but he is expected, at least on the Ohio State side, their belief is that he'll be here this week to start the July 6th class schedule and to start working out with the team.
That's ultimately all that really matters. Nicole, how much attention do you pay to recruiting? Because I think, for me, I listen to Berm, and I know who they're recruiting, but it's never – I'm the guy that waits until they're on campus. Like, the recruiting process, to me, I'm glad that Berm handles that for us.
Yes, Berm, I do respect you so much and admire you for the intelligence you have on all of this, but I definitely follow along on...
Well, that's not oversell it, Nicole.
Tell me
No,
more.
it is. It's so much information.
Tell me more about how great I am, please.
It is. It really is, guys. I mean, because it's the future of the team.
Right.
So I'm like you, though. I wait until I basically just look to Berm. I'm like, okay, so this is who we're getting. Great. That sounds good. So, but it is nice to know, like, it's a competition amongst all these schools, and to know that Ohio State landed JTT is very, very exciting.
If you got to take 5 official visits, Nicole, where would you have gone?
5 colleges, anywhere in the
I
country.
like that. Oh my gosh, guys, you asked me too quick.
Berm, where would you go? Nicole's going to think about it and make her list.
I would go to Arizona State because Mill Avenue is pretty awesome.
Well, you can also take your visit to Arizona State whenever you want, because there's no rules and they like to break them. And
Also true. So I'd take 5 there. Arizona State would be 1. Miami would probably 1.
What do you know about Phoenix anyway?
Coral. I once lived there.
Oh, really?
Coral Gables looks pretty nice. I actually think I would take one to Notre Dame because I think that the history there is pretty unique. Bob, what?
When are you going there, by the way?
In the summer.
Okay. I guess so.
Yeah. When it's not.
There's nothing to do there, by the way.
Sure, you're on an official visit.
He names Miami and Phoenix, and then number 3
I want to mix in.
It'd be really cool to go to South Bend,
I want to mix
Indiana,
in some serious options.
Woo!
Here. I want to mix in some serious choices. I mean, you can't. Oh, I'm going to go to Hawaii. The Hawaii staff actually has a lot of kids who request to take official visits there.
I'm sure.
When they're committed elsewhere, and they tell them no, obviously, because they're like, we're not going to waste our time. Where else? Where else would you go?
Pepperdine.
You can only think of 3 places that you would visit.
I mean, I'd like to go a lot of places. I'd probably go to Texas. Austin's a pretty cool city.
There you go. Now we're cooking.
And definitely not USC.
Austin's a great campus. We went and looked there. It's nice.
Austin is nice.
Austin's the
The
best.
thing is, Miami's campus is
Let's hear
super
more
tiny.
about Austin.
Miami's campus is super tiny. And
Yeah, but you're not really spending time on campus.
yeah, but no one
Except at Notre Dame.
No one cares about you playing. Like, this isn't the 80s or 90s. Like, the U doesn't matter anymore in
But
Miami.
this is where I want to go, not where I want to go to South Beach.
Yeah, but you're not getting any special treatment.
Bob, I
there.
need a vacation.
I understand that. You just went to California.
That wasn't a vacation.
You chasing around high school dudes in a parking lot is vacation to you.
All right. Number 5 would have to definitely be Wyoming.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Wyoming.
Got to go to Laramie.
It's a difficult visit to make.
Only because Laramie is the only city in America that I can think of that rhymes with Jeremy.
I really appreciate you calling it a city, but I don't think technically it counts with 23,000 people.
Town.
It's a bit of a small town vibe, very much like South Bend, Indiana.
I just like to tell people that I'm Jeremy from Laramie. I think it would be really like.
I think you should.
Yeah. From now on, that's actually.
Let's actually schedule your visit right now, and I will take you around Laramie.
Neat.
And all of the old haunts. Yeah. I need to get some endorsement deals out there, although Roosters is the only one I need now. Bob, you only took 2, right? Is that
4.
You took 4, okay.
And shit, I'm waiting on my 5th, trying to get that scheduled up. I went to Northwestern, which was pretty cool because we had to go to downtown Chicago and like hang out there. So you want some big city living? There you go.
South Bend is basically Chicago.
Yeah, they're like, oh, it's super close, like an hour, 2 hours on the
get
train.
on the train for 2 hours. That sounds awesome.
Like, that's what I want to do Saturday
Or get
night
into
when
traffic for 2 hours from Evanston. I mean,
you can take the L though. Like
it's another train.
no, but it's like 30 minutes versus 2 hours. It's not even comparable.
Maybe I like to read on a train.
Yeah, because
Nice
that
to get a little downtime.
That
Bob.
happens late at night. I watched my drunk buddy fall on another dude coming back from a Wrigley game, like as he was just sitting down.
Let's not talk about Schlegel on this show.
It wasn't Schleich's, but it was phenomenal. But that's I went to Northwestern, so Chicago, Michigan State, and these are all in the winter too, because they didn't have these warm time options. Yeah. No spring and summertime visits, and then Ohio State and North Carolina. Which North Carolina, I would say Birmingham.
Great campus.
You might want to put that in the bag.
Great campus.
I'm not sure if Notre Dame needs to make it. I did go there on an
You went
unofficial.
to every city that has gray skies like 90% of the time. East Lansing might be
People
the
like what
darkest
they
city
like,
in
Berm.
America.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was when they were coming off. Bobby Williams was there. I mean, they had, T.J. Duckett, dude. I mean, they were good. They were good. Like, Ohio State wasn't great when I was coming out. The year before we lost to Illinois and we're 8-3 when Tress's first, maybe 7.
You were an 8-3.
7-5, his first
7-5 in Tress's first year.
First year.
6 in Cooper's last.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Belsari just got in a DUI. I'm at the game. They're starting Krenzel or McMullen, then Krenzel at Illinois, blow a chance to win the Big Ten. I mean, it wasn't a good scene, man.
No,
I came up here. It was nice. It was good. I had a good time. Yeah.
You turned it around.
But I would go to Carolina. I'd go to probably Arizona State.
You just told us you took a visit to Carolina. You're not even going to change it?
No, because it was good.
All right.
Beautiful.
Well, if you had a great time, why wouldn't you double down?
Yeah, that sounds right.
All right.
You do have that in hindsight.
I know exactly what I was going to get, and I'm going
to do that
I'm
again.
going to do it again.
When you go to a restaurant and you order something you like and it's good, you go back and get the same thing over again. So I'm going to have a double serving of Carolina. Probably go out to Arizona State. Texas is good. I would probably throw a Texas in there. However, Texas Tech, Danny Amendola has assured me that Texas Tech is the superior campus for talent in the entirety of the state.
For talent, yeah.
So I would throw that in there.
That's code.
Then I would.
I mean, if that's the purpose, Ole Miss has to be probably a consideration.
Yeah, but Ole Miss,
Or Georgia.
Georgia, another good place I would say would make that list. And then lastly, I might try to throw in, maybe a Florida State, because I think Florida State's got something going on there too.
What about Auburn? Auburn's a beautiful.
Auburn's in the middle of nowhere, though.
But it's a beautiful campus.
It is beautiful, and they've got people that poison trees and go crazy and stuff. I really didn't pick.
Why do you hate trees,
I didn't.
Nicole?
Outside of Georgia, I don't really need to go to any of the SEC schools.
Yeah,
'cause,
once you go to
it'd
one
be
of
like
them,
going
they're
to
all
it'd be like living in Lancaster, Ohio for college, but far worse. Tell you, I mean, it'd be much smaller, and there's nowhere to travel to.
Yeah. Nicole's got her list now.
I did. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget.
like it.
NYU, just because of their school,
Yeah,
for
obviously
journalism
they don't play
and
football
everything.
there.
I love
so.
it. Yeah, exactly.
See,
So I
Nicole is
gotta
going
get from this
straight
side.
to the serious
Yep.
business, right?
Because it's about the business first.
she's an
It's the life
she's an
after football, guys.
academic in
Life
life.
after football. Obviously, Ohio State, which is where I went. I think it is a phenomenal campus that we take for granted, and that's in our backyard.
Right.
And Houston and Austin, Texas. So I was very impressed with when we were in Austin, and we went to, is it Texas University or University of Texas?
University of Texas.
Okay, I get them confused, but it was a beautiful campus, and it was very exciting.
Oklahoma
the culture.
likes to call them Texas University because they get everything upside down there.
Okay. Yep. Got it.
2 schools. Did you get 4? NYU,
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Austin,
And then Northwestern as well.
Western.
Oh, Chicago.
Big cities. I like the big cities.
Everyone loves life on the lake.
Great.
It's nice in the summer.
I'm sure.
Beautiful facilities there that they've put in
they-
hundreds of millions of dollars so that they can go 8-4 and lose the Big Ten title game coming out of the West.
Every other year.
Fun for them. This week's Appetizer Tuesday, by the way, when Bob was talking about getting something you like on the menu, fried
mushrooms.
I already had half of that basket before we started today, so I can verify that they're good. So come in
Good.
this
Yes.
week. And it's linebacker week.
Ooh,
Bob.
boy.
What do you know about that group?
Al Washington is their coach. They've got a handful of seniors, a handful of young dudes, no one who's really played a lot of football at Ohio State, so trying to figure that out.
Are you concerned about this group when you look at that lack of experience?
There is some concern because it's a high communication position. Now, these guys have been there, like Dallas Gant's been there a long time, and he gets it. Taraj Mitchell's been there a long time. Like, these guys understand things. Eichenberg's been there a couple of years, but like they've been hurt or they've been playing mostly special teams, and you just worry about the fact like they haven't been in these situations, high pressure situations where you need to get communication from the defensive line all the way back to the safeties, and it needs to be very fluid. Am I comfortable with these guys as players? Yeah, they're playing, but that's such a small piece of what you need to be able to do as a linebacker. So that's really more my concern. And I guess we'll probably find out pretty quickly with Oregon. I mean, how versed those guys are.
Well, I think the Minnesota game, if you're looking at where they could pose a threat for Ohio State, they've got a veteran quarterback and one of the best running backs in the country. Like, Minnesota's offense is going to be fine. I think that they're pretty weak on the other side of the ball and have no chance of stopping the Buckeyes offense. But, just since we get to start talking about football again, I think that's a real deal, is that Ohio State's probably going to find out in week 1 what they've got at linebacker.
Yeah, it's extremely important because the secondary, despite the fact that it's a little more veteran, has a bunch of guys who haven't played a lot of football either. A lot of guys coming back from injury. You got the Court Williams. You don't know if he's going to step in there. Josh Proctor, does he have the ability to shore up that back end? And so those linebackers have to be great. And what we saw at Ohio State in the 2018 season, which is the worst defense that we've ever seen in the school history, aside from maybe last year in those couple of games. But that 2018 group was really, really bad because the linebackers didn't know what they were doing. And I don't know if that was necessarily their fault all the time. They were obviously 4 sophomores and getting their first playing time. But now you have a lot of guys getting their first playing time again, and you don't have Chase Young and people like that to kind of save you. So you definitely wonder how those guys step up. I think Dallas Gant did a really great job against Michigan State when he got a chance to fill in and start in that game. Taraja Mitchell, people just kind of waiting for him to become that impact player.
Raw Dog, by the way. That's his nickname.
But, I think that there's a lot of young guys like Eichenberg, like Cody Simon. I think Cody Simon's going to be a star at Ohio State. It might happen sooner than he thought because a lot of these other guys haven't taken that opportunity away from him yet. So with those guys, I think Reed Carrico, the young guy coming in, makes he'll have an opportunity to play. And at this point, it's not a group that is so established that a young guy can't come in and become the leader of the group. And I think that in some ways that might be what Ohio State needs.
Nicole, who's going to be the leader of that group?
So I think, just like you were saying, in 2018, when the guys were, when they were basically sophomores that were there, I think that the fact that Dallas Gant has been around, I feel he and has played in the Michigan State game last year and did pretty well, that we should, I think that will be good. I think that's better than having just a bunch of young guys that haven't had, because think about how much these kids just mature and grow just by learning through practice. That's all they do all day. So I think that it'll look better than 2018. But yeah, I think Dallas Gant's going to be our guy.
Tuff was a captain in 2018 as a true sophomore, and that team was bad. It was bad. So you wonder if a guy like Dallas or Taraja doesn't step up and get put into that position. I don't think the Buckeyes are going to wait around long for them to, blossom. I think they better come out of the gate swinging, because there are young guys like Eichenberg and Simon and Reed Carrico.
Not many. That's still a relatively thin group, and that's why you look at Paulier,
Neo Teote,
that guy, as he's trying to get. He is on campus now. He's taking classes at Ohio State, but it is not a situation for him where he is instantly on the team. That Ohio State will still have to have an NCAA waiver appeal process for him. The reason they're involved in a transfer situation is because there's just not a lot of depth behind there. Berm, you said there's 3 guys that you can name, but really after that it's like, okay, because there's injuries still. Yep. Mitchell Melton's going to miss this year. So that's when they really need to go their way. You never know anymore with this wild, wild west of the NCAA how that rule is going to go down, but he's taking classes. Obviously the intention is for him to transfer to Ohio State and help with the depth.
Well, he's transferred to Ohio State.
Whether as a student he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether or not he's on the football team remains to be seen. But clearly when you're playing a long snapper at linebacker in the spring game, it's not because you just like to have a lot of fun in the spring game. Okay? It's because you don't have players.
Someone call Zach Bourne. Get him on the phone.
Get him in there. It probably was more fun for McCullough than what he would normally be doing.
He played fairly well at the position. All things considered, for a guy that was told the day before.
Here comes Bob.
He was told the day before, hey, you're going to play linebacker tomorrow. He didn't look like a complete
They should have just
clown.
had Bob play in the spring game.
No, that sounds terrible.
Actually, if you did the spring game and did it like alumni versus current players in the second half, I think that'd be actually a lot of fun.
Arizona State, the school where you lived, they used to do that. And I had a friend who played, and it was the last year the NCAA allowed it. I think it was like 98.
That's a darn.
And you could still do alumni. The spring game was alumni versus current players.
Would you be in for that?
Yeah, you just have to have a lot of subs. I'm in decent shape. I'd have to probably train a little more. Gosh, there's
you're
in Woody every single day again.
Just thud tempo. If you're
going to do it, you're going to take him to the ground, man. What are you talking about?
You guys will.
I don't have a problem.
Imagine how that plays out. Travion Henderson
I'm not
tears
trying
his
to hurt
ACL
anybody.
today. As Bobby Carpenter.
If you're getting hurt by a 38-year-old man, then you know what? It's probably not safe for you to be on the field in general.
Touche.
Nicole, before you go,
Yes.
the next holiday.
National Chicken Wing
There
Day.
it is.
Ooh, when's that?
July 29th.
Are there enough chicken wings in the country for
So
national
that's the
chicken
thing,
wings?
Great
guys.
question. That's what everybody wants to know.
Unfortunately, we are going to, and not unfortunately, but it's going to be boneless this year because of the chicken wing shortage.
Bravo.
So still National Chicken Wing Day.
Chicken
it's
nugget-
just the
chicken
the
nugget day.
sister
I love
of the chicken wing.
boneless wings.
Chicken nugget day.
Yeah. So boneless wings.
Okay. And, maybe you can line it up and get some Appetizer Tuesday stops in before then.
Yes.
Get the ball rolling. Again, it's fried mushrooms this week. Anything else that people need to know for Roosters in July?
That's it, guys. Just
That's
come
it.
in and hang out. It's
Been
just been a
packed.
great month. Yeah, I think everybody's ready to get out, and it's been so great seeing everyone. Lots of smiles.
Yeah.
Great.
Everybody's using their holiday weekend to get in here on Monday. Busy. George Kaufman just walking in. Hanging in.
amazing.
Everybody's
Hi,
here this
George.
week. Our guy from
Like a
Fire
phantom
Auto.
just appeared.
He always carry out, but he's got a beverage, all right. It's a holiday for everybody. Nicole, we're going to let you go on with your day. We're going to talk a lot more about Berm's weekend in L.A. with the recruiting going on. I know Bob loves to talk about those young dudes, but we'll be right back on Lettermen Live. It's brought to you by Roosters. It's a fun, casual joint.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart. And we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Hey, everybody, welcome back into the Lettermen Lounge. This is Lettermen Live. It's brought to you by Roosters. Come in tomorrow on Tuesday for some fried mushrooms. My basket is now gone. Spencer Holbrook is in here replacing Nicole Cox so that we can talk about, again, more with JTT, but also another pickup on Monday. Brian Hartline, I guess he's pretty good at this recruiting thing, too.
Yeah.
Has
So
he ever lost a duel?
I mean, that's I think subjective. I mean, there's been players.
He's like the Doc Holliday.
There's been players.
of
There's been
recruiting.
players he's recruited that didn't end up at Ohio State, but now he took over July of 2018. So here we are, July of 2021. He's not hosted an official visitor that has not committed to him.
LeVar Ball?
Didn't Wandale,
Never lost? Never
wasn't that
lost?
the one that hurt him?
Never lost?
Never lost.
Wait a second, you might be right.
I think Wandale.
Wandale Robinson may be the outlier there. I kind of forgot about him because
That was year one. For
that was
Hartline.
year one.
Was that in 2019, though, or did he still have the interim tag in 2018?
Ooh, full time.
I know we had a picture that Berm took of Keenan Bailey, Brian Hartline, and Wandale like doing some routes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have.
So
I'm
he
gonna have
was-
to look into that.
He was the interim, though, I believe, when Wandale officially visited.
So we're not going to hold it against him. But if you're in a duel and you're
I don't know.
interim gunslinger,
Yeah,
they
but
shoot you. You still die.
yeah, but amateur status, you can't even get your prize money at the end.
I'll have to look into that. But either way, he doesn't lose very often. I mean, he goes down to Georgia and gets Kojo Antwi, the number 15 ranked receiver, according to most of the composite rankings. Some people have him a little higher, some people a little lower. But it was a Georgia, Texas A&M, Alabama, USC, Ohio State battle. And when I talked to Kojo for his commitment interview on Bermanology on Monday morning, 4 months ago, this kid eliminated Ohio State. He was like, I'm going to commit, and he was going to commit to Texas A&M that week, and had all but moved on from Ohio State. And Hartline saw the messaging, basically the post from one of the Georgia sites saying that he was down to 3 schools and eliminated Ohio State. And within an hour, Kojo Antwi was like, you know what, I'm not eliminated Ohio State. I'm actually not going to commit this week. I mean, I think with what we're seeing at Ohio State, and this is not just Brian Hartline, between Tony Alford, between Corey Dennis, between Brian Hartline, Al Washington, Kerry Combs, Matt Barnes, Larry Johnson, Ryan Day. This is the best recruiting staff I've ever seen top to bottom. I mean, it is a bunch of guys who really understand how to it's not about selling anybody. It's about building relationships, and they're all very, very good at it. And that starts with Ryan Day because he is involved in every one of these recruitments. This is not a situation where in the past you'd have a player getting ready to commit, and that's when they'd had their first conversation with the coach. This is a guy who is involved at every step of the way, and it makes a huge difference for these kids who realize that it's not just, this is my position coach. Ryan Day is making sure this kid knows that the entire program is recruiting him, and so the Buckeyes are having coaches who will never coach that kid still be involved in his recruitment, and that makes a big difference. And then they come to campus, and they realize that it's not BS, and that the same coaches that they didn't, why is this coach talking to me, is still talking to him when he's on campus. It just really resonates with them in a different way.
When you look at this, it seemed like when you two had been talking stuff about this next class that it might just be 3 wide receivers. But things have changed a little bit with that room. There's no real depth to speak of, especially if you're going to lose Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson after next year, Spencer. So they needed to get one more, and then, oh, look, Brian Hartline just gets another 4-star, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't really talk about as much Caleb Brown, who just committed as well. Like
3 weeks ago.
When
was
he
won, was he the one? Was it him or Burton that made the comment like, if I can't go there and play, then I shouldn't be there. I shouldn't be playing football anyway. Was it him or Burton who made that?
I think it was Caleb Brown.
It was Caleb Brown. Yeah. And so when you look at the room, they are going to need to replace some of these guys. What a better way to do it than have a class that I'm going to put it on paper in the next couple of weeks and try to compare it to the 2020 class, because I want to see how it stacks up. Maybe the ranking system doesn't quite stack up because all 4 of those guys were, I think, top 80 players. But when you look top to bottom, different body sizes, different types of receivers they are, this 2022 receiver class, if you keep them all in the same class, it's going to rival what they did in 2020, and that is incredible.
The important thing is, as you mentioned, you're losing Chris Olave, you're losing Garrett Wilson. I mean, there's no one who you might lose. He's gone.
Gone, yeah.
You know, put that out of your mind that he's going to come back. And then you obviously just
a fact.
And then you lose, Jalen Harris and Elijah Gardner as far as the depth piece, and then you lose Jamison Williams and Mookie Cooper on the transfers. All of a sudden, that room is down 6 guys from what you maybe thought it was going to be when you recruited a year ago. So now all of a sudden you have to do some restocking. But then on top of that, you also have to realize that Julian Fleming and Jackson Smith and Jigba are likely only here for 1 more year after this. So it's like, well, why do they recruit any position other than receiver? And people are complaining all the time.
You play 3 of them at a time, and 4 now sometimes. So it's like second to offensive line volume-wise.
There's a lot of random complaining from Buckeyes fans on like the social media comments. Oh, do they recruit any other position? But you have to restock this room, and that's why. On top of that, I mean, Kerry Combs picked up a commitment in the last few days from Terrence Brooks, the cornerback from.
Why don't they recruit any other position other than secondary, bro?
This is now 5 defensive backs in this class. He wants 7. He recruited 6 a year ago. People, why? I mean, look at the room, man. Like,
lost a lot of guys.
Read the room. There's not a lot of depth there at all. And these kids, Kerry Combs, I mean, he has an obligation and a responsibility to make sure that if he left Ohio State next year, that the coach that comes in next behind him isn't in the position that he was in.
Is that breaking news?
No.
Okay.
That's what we call a hypothetical situation.
I mean, it seems like a pretty specific hypothetical.
It's very, very specific. Bob, the other part, I was talking to somebody about this recently at Ohio State, that when you're looking at the depth chart, Brian Hartline could say, I'm fine for Saturday. You're going to rotate 6 guys, and they've got 6 guys, and they're all very good. But that there was some concern about the depth that they would may need to add in the summer or find walk-ons or something else.
You need people to practice.
Monday through Friday, yeah.
Yeah, you need guys to practice with. Yeah. Receivers and defensive backs in college football, these guys are running like 6-7 miles of practice. And so you want to make sure you're tapering that down by the end of the week. And so because here's the thing, like they're going to expect some of the 4, 5, and 6 guys to get reps on with the scout team to make sure they're giving a good look to the defense. And so you're having those guys do some double duty there, and they're going to have to come in and play. It's not like they're just warm bodies that you're throwing out there. They're going to come in, they may be in there a 3rd and 7 and expected to go make a play. And that's if everybody stays healthy and there's not a rolled ankle here, or something happens here, a guy gets a concussion, whatever it is, something like that. Now you're on 5. And so all of those issues, and you can't practice with that guy, which is the bigger part. So, I was talking to Hartline about this. I didn't even think. I'm like, man, you've got the best probably 6-man depth you're going to find. He's like, yeah, but after that, there's really nobody. He's like, we have nobody like that we're developing slowly. So that's a piece of it. And also when you have the guys that are that good, a lot of these are going to be on 3-year turnovers because they're going to be leaving early.
Well, in the ones that aren't are still probably leaving after 3 years because they are going to be in an era where you can transfer freely. And at this point, at a place like Ohio State, Alabama, et cetera, you should pretty much be counting these as 3-year scholarships for pretty much everyone.
I mean, Bama's been doing that for years.
Right, exactly. But Ohio State now with the free transfer era, it's going to be very similar. You're not going to find a lot of kids like Jalen Harris who want to stay for 5 years. Or Elijah Gardner, I just love being a college student at Ohio State. I'm just going to stay here forever. Like that's not going to happen often. So most of these scholarships at this point, you should be looking at them as they're on this roster for 3 years because either you're good enough to go to the NFL or you're not good enough and you're transferring back home to Missouri.
Let me ask you this, Berm. So if I have an exclusive 4-year agreement with, like, let's say Roosters,
sure,
and after 2 years I want to transfer, but that agreement implies that I have to be at Ohio State, how is that going to work?
Well, it depends. Did you promise them, or did they promise you?
I don't know. We signed something together, and now we're binded and locked in.
Doesn't matter. Contracts are null and void.
Oh, okay.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters anymore.
It's good. It's good that we have all these noted contract lawyer experts in on our show every single week.
Uli's a nihilist.
Oh,
Must be exhausting.
yeah, great. What did you learn in California, Berm?
Well, I learned that Ohio State.
Stay out of Malibu,
Yeah.
Lebowski. That's what you learned.
I'm glad that you took my Big Lebowski reference and ran with it. Thank you. We're like Danny
It's
DeVito.
dangerous.
We're
what I
like
think
we're
is
like
going to
the-
happen to this
We're
show
like DeVito
in the
and Schwarzenegger.
in the next
you know?
10 minutes.
We're like DeVito and Schwarzenegger.
Twins, I like it. That's
So
another good one.
what I realized is that Ohio State has.
old 80s and 90s movies. Can you guys plug in before the next?
Wait till they get a load of me. No, the reality is that Ohio State has really good players also coming in that we haven't already talked about. C.J. Hicks is the best linebacker in America, the 2022 linebacker commitment from Dayton. He was unbelievable out there at the opening. He's such a unique prospect as far as the way that he's built and the way that he moves. Keon Grays, who we're talking about wide receivers, I talked to a couple of the people in the 247 rankings, industry over the weekend. They all agreed he was like a top 10 player in the country at his position. So you're going to see him get a ratings bump. And then there's the uncommitted guys, which is what people really care about. Once a kid commits, everyone's like, oh, screw him. Who's next? So that's where guys like Xavier Wampa, who continues to be.
What about the branches?
Zion was not there at the opening. They had a team camp, so he was doing something stupid like working with his team.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Who would want to do that?
Unbelievable.
How do you promote yourself with the team?
That's a great question. Great question. Twitter.com/Berm. It's the reality is that Ohio State is such a unique brand right now that those players go out there and they are not just like there's a lot of kids out there, 100 and some prospects at this camp. Not everyone is identified with the team they're going to. But every time C.J. Hicks did anything, you'd hear Maurice Jones-Drew call out, "Oh, good job, Buckeye. Good job, Ohio." Every single dig was about Ohio, go Bucks or whatever. To him, to Grays, to Quinn Ewers, whenever Quinn did something good or bad, it was about Ohio State. It's about you just did that in the big house. There's always these comments, and nobody else really has that sort of underlying theme. And I think it's kind of interesting because the brand of Ohio State is so much bigger than pretty much any. I mean, it's bigger than the brand of Alabama in the recruiting world because the kids that go to Alabama are not really personalities in a lot of cases. They go there because they're going to churn out a championship and head off to the NFL. These kids that are going to Ohio State are always the biggest personalities there. C.J. Hicks, Keon Grays are like the Pied Pipers at any one of these events they go to. It's really fascinating because you really do see the difference in the type of people Ohio State brings in.
Also pretty significant for name, image, and likeness to be identified that way too, right, Spencer?
Yeah, and if you picked 3 guys to go to the opening that were Ohio State commits, I think the coaching staff probably would have picked Quinn Ewers just because he's the number 1 player in the country, C.J. Hicks, and Keon Grays because people just gravitate to him. And everything Berm has said, he's got a picture I think of Keon Grays, C.J. Hicks, and Xavier Wampa walking together, I believe, as the 3. And everywhere they go, they've got an uncommitted guy that they're trying to reel into the class with them. And that's exactly what you want if you're a coaching staff. You need these guys to really be after it because the coaching staff, couldn't go on the road for so long. And these guys are kind of, we talk about guys putting together classes. Jay-Z talks about how he was on the phone with guys trying to get them. These guys actually recruit for the school probably more than anyone ever has in this 2022 class, and it's impressive the way they do it.
And Mark Pantoni mentioned it earlier this spring. He said these guys are now the best recruiters that they have. The peer-to-peer recruiting has taken on and gone to a different level than it ever has before.
Oh, because you're going to listen to those guys, and they want to have a good class. Like the better players you have, the better your team is ultimately going to be, and those guys truly understand that. Let me ask you this: is there any animosity, Berman? You're out on the West Coast. Obviously, there's Maurice Jones-Drew's out there from the Pac-12 schools.
How much he's dreading
with the Pac-12 schools.
I can always tell I always feel like when he starts to. Like that sort of line of questioning, I feel like there's going to be.
Well, no, this is actually real. This isn't going to be something that's nefarious.
Okay.
Is there any animosity out there with the Pac-12 schools? The fact that all their good players don't stay in the footprint anymore.
I don't think there is because I think that
they don't even care.
They don't care
because they number one, they
didn't even know he was there.
The players do care. The guys that are from there that made it out there, they want those guys to stay out there. But I think the most of them understand that. The opportunity is just different if you go to Ohio State or if you go to Alabama or Georgia or LSU. Maurice Jones-Drew was screaming out to C.J. Hicks the whole time. The rivalry that those two had was actually probably the funniest part of the whole weekend to me. Like everything. Like C.J. Hicks was telling him, come on. Like, he was trying to get him to go out there and do a drill against him. And Jones-Drew kept yelling, I wanted to be a Buckeye. They didn't recruit me. I wanted to go there. Like, they do understand that there is something different there. And, the guys that stay out on the West Coast, they take a lot of pride in saying, hey, we stayed out here and did something. And it's interesting.
We stayed out here and went 7-5.
It's interesting, though, when you watch and you see C.J. Stroud show up at the last day there. He's obviously from right down the street in California, and he's at Ohio State. And then you have Bryce Young from California, who is at Alabama. You have DJ Uiagalelei, who is from California, who's at Clemson. The three premier quarterbacks in the country are from a 10-mile radius of each other in Southern California, and they went to Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. And what you realize is that college football...
They must want to play in the playoff.
College football is not a West Coast thing anymore. I mean, it's just these kids... There's going to be a push. USC's doing a good job trying to get some kids to stay home. But if Clay Helton loses his job after this year... If... I like to, asterisk, big if there. If he loses his job, it's wide open again. Oregon's doing a nice job, but as we found out with the JT Tuimoloau recruitment... Does a kid really want to get up and have his parents say, oh, you guys got to watch a 9 a.m. game? People don't want that.
Wait, are you saying that the breakfast games aren't good for the Pac-12?
I'm saying that they probably aren't great, especially the 9 a.m., 6 a.m. I mean, this is what's happening.
That's remarkable.
I think the biggest thing on the West Coast is we thought maybe that NIL, well, there were people who thought NIL might level the playing field for everybody, but the companies on the West Coast are, the Googles of the world, the Microsoft of the world. They're not looking to sign the
really big in football.
They're not looking to sign a quarterback from Southern California straight out of high school and say, hey.
But also LeBron James plays in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Like, if you have an opportunity, where are you putting your money? And you putting your money in LeBron James or somebody else on the Lakers or the Clippers, or the Rams, or there's 17 pro teams in LA.
And even
kids
in
at USC are not going to be a big part of that pitch.
Even in the Pacific Northwest, Russell Wilson or Sam Heward, the quarterback at Washington, are you going to sign, if JT Tuimoloau would have picked Oregon, are you going to sign him, or is a company in Portland going to sign Damian Lillard? Like, it just looks easier for these companies. Why would we want to do that with these colleges? Plus, people just don't care about it on the West Coast. There's no point to do it anyway.
The difference is this. For a kid like JT Tuimoloau...
He could have got sponsored by, the Chop Zone, though.
Yeah, he could be. He could be. You could just change the name. But a kid like JTT, he can leave Washington, he can leave Seattle and go to Ohio State and still become a celebrity at home.
Yeah.
You can't be from Ohio and go play at USC and then have the city welcome you when you come back.
No.
So that is the difference. I think that these kids understand from a brand perspective, you can leave a place like Seattle, go to Alabama, become a superstar, win a national championship, be a first-round pick, and the people at home are going to be like, yeah, welcome back, welcome back. You do that in Columbus, they're going to double birds. They're going to Marcus Hall you.
Marcus Hall. Before we get out of here, Berm, you saw Quinn Ewers, and it seemed like just talking with you and reading your coverage that it was an up and down week for him.
Yeah, I think that it's the expectation that is on him. When you put a perfect ranking on someone, a perfect quarterback ranking, 6 guys in 20 years have had a perfect recruiting ranking. How do you get better? How do you do anything other than criticize from there? And Quinn was not his best. He'll tell you that. I think it was probably very good for him to be around other quarterbacks who are good, to realize that, hey, I actually have work to do, and that some of the accolades and stuff that he gets are based on projection, not necessarily just on where he is. But also, Quinn Ewers doesn't play 7-on-7 football. It's not something he cares about. It's not something that his coaches at South Lake Carroll want him to do because it's not real football. Quinn Ewers is a football player, not a 7-on-7 quarterback. So in those sort of situations, and plus after 5 days of just throwing all day long, and it's not just him, and I don't mean to sound like I'm making excuses. All these guys' arms were dead on Saturday. So they had the 7-on-7 championship round, and everyone was dead.
Why do they do that? I mean, you have all these quarterback gurus running this camp. Wouldn't they know the stress that they're putting on?
You would think, and the ironic thing was that on Thursday night they did their pro day competition, which was essentially 20 throws starting at the 1 goal line, working your way down the field. And they did that 20 throws over the course of 12 minutes, all right? So you just slowly move, you go up, you set up the route. And then the next morning at 8 a.m., they have them out on this field doing this accuracy challenge, and they're literally throwing 200 passes in 2 minutes. How many balls can you throw as hard as you can? And I'm like, these kids left the field at 11 o'clock the night before, and we have them back out here at 8 a.m. and I asked a couple of the quarterbacks, I'm like, what do they do for you guys to make sure that, your arms aren't getting ripped apart here? Cade Klubnik, who won the Elite 11, the Clemson quarterback commit, he actually had a separated shoulder 5 months ago, right? So he's out here doing this, and he's like, my arm feels dead. Like they don't have any sort of setup for them to get massages or to make sure that they're being taken care of. So it's kind of on the quarterback themselves to make sure that they are taking care of themselves when they get back to the hotel. But they're only getting 6 hours of downtime a day, and that's at 11 o'clock after meetings are done. Then they're back up at 6 a.m. So it really is designed to test them and to stress them. And it's not like just one of these camps that it's there for just promoting the brand. It's not a marketing ploy by Under Armour or someone else. I mean, this is they're putting them out there to really run these kids through some work, and they got a lot of it.
Let me ask you this, Berm, before we get out of here.
Oh, God, here we go.
No, it's
the real one?
JTT's commitment. What did that do to this recruiting class as far as rankings go?
The 2021 class, it didn't change anything. What it did do is it made Ohio State's 2021 class the highest ranked recruiting class in Buckeyes history.
Okay.
Passing the 2017 class just by a couple points. Now that class had Baron Browning, Jeff Okuda, Chase Young, Wyatt Davis, Sean Wade, all 5 stars. So the 2021 class now has 6 5 stars as opposed to the 5 that were in that group. With JTT, with Jack Sawyer, with Donovan Jackson, Travion Henderson, Kyle McCord, and who am I missing? Emeka Ibuka. So now you got 6 guys who are at the top 25 players in the country. And it's certainly one of those things that sets it up. It's also the 3rd 5-star player from Seattle in the last 3 years that Ohio State has signed, which
I didn't even know that Seattle had that many 5-star players.
Well, they actually had another because Sam Heward, the quarterback who went to Washington, is also. So.
2 plugs for Sam Heward on this show. That tells me that we've probably covered way too much.
Sam Heward, if you're out there, we're thinking about you.
Too much. I wasn't, but Spencer and Berm were. Now Bobby can't get Sam Heward out of his head either. We're all stuck with it. This has been another episode of Lettermen Live. Great to be in here on Monday. Happy 4th of July weekend to everyone. Nicole Cox, thanks for having us. For Spencer, Berm, Bobby, I am Austin Ward. We will see you next week for more Lettermen Live. It's a fun, casual joint. Come hang out.